Hi, everybody. This is an interview with Lucy Monroe for A.R.R.'s reading room. I am not A.R.R. I'm just filling in for, due to a family emergency, I'm filling in. I was supposed to be the guest host for this interview. How are you doing today, Lucy?
I am doing really, really well today. I'm very excited about the book coming out this week and the good news today on my cancer. So yeah, I'm doing really good.
And my book club is going to read it in August.
I'm so excited.
That I'm doing with A.R.R.
To my knowledge, I've never been a book club pick, so I'm like super excited about it.
So I know he likes to start off with any book covers that you love at the moment.
Oh, okay.
Even if they're not in like presents or anything like that, are there any specific book covers that you love at the moment?
I will tell you, I don't have them with me, but because I've been reading mostly either audiobooks or I get my Kindle books and then I have have the screen so big because I get migraines from reading.
Me too.
Yeah,
I understand.
So, it's like you keep the letters so big. But I love Diane Freeman has those Lady Harley mysteries, cozy mysteries, and I think her covers are so indicative of the story. That was great. I mean, the stories are good. The covers are adorable. Yes, of course, I'm loving the presents covers. I just saw one from Pippa Roscoe that's coming out. And and I think I saw a cover for LaQuette's Next Desire. And it's like Cinderella Masquerade, and she's got the masquerade mask, and she's this confident, beautiful woman is standing there. I'm like, that's a gorgeous cover.
Whoever does the Desire covers,
they rock.
They're just gorgeous.
Yeah, Harlequin does very good covers, I will say. Yeah, and I love some of these new indie covers. If you go looking on, because I'd like compare and you've got just some gorgeous covers, really beautiful color composition, things like that. I do love art, so it's covers to me are not just the book. It's like, what's the art impact of that cover, and it really gets me when there's a beautiful artistic impact.
Yeah, I love your the cover for Blackmailed by the Billionaire.
Thanks. I found that on cover. It's called Book Cover Zone. They are fantastic for indie covers because you can play with your titles and figure out how things fit on the page, not the page, but the cover. And I use them for Blackmailed by the Billionaire, for Her Off-Limits Prince, and then I've got another category, romance, that I'm going to be indie releasing this year, and that one is what is it called? Cinderella's Jilted Billionaire. Anyway, I love these covers. Gorgeous covers. So yeah.
Sorry, I have to look down at my notes because I have questions.
You go right ahead.
Questions.
No stress.
From what A.R.R. and I could tell from looking at how many books you published, is there 83 books as of right now that you have published?
Sounds good. I know it's over 80, less than 90. I mean, honestly, it gets hard. You get up to a certain point, and it's just like you're just putting the books out, and the milestones matter, but it's different. It's different, and yeah. So yeah, over 80.
I was just like, I looked you up on Goodreads. I was like, because I know your name, but I didn't realize you. It was like it said 85 on there. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, it's it's a lot, and it's one of the reasons. I mean, I look back, and sometimes because you'll probably hear this from, I'm sure you've heard it from a lot of other authors too. You still feel like a newbie sometimes. You're writing a book and you've written, it doesn't matter how many, and you're still like, oh, if I could just do it this way, or if I could just do that, this other author can do so well, or, and we're always striving, I think, to improve, to write a better story, to write a more emotional, evocative story. And I'm working on mystery right now and playing with that, and you're looking for a different set of emotions when you're writing that, right? But you're still looking to connect to emotion. You're not just telling it's not just like this, right? It's like this, just like it is in any other genre fiction. You're taking the reader on a journey. Yeah.
But how do you have time to do anything else? Because you have so many books out.
I will say that when I was younger, I was a much faster writer than I am now.
Okay.
There were years I had 10, I think one year I had a dozen releases. But now I definitely don't write that fast. I don't have that, but I write consistently. And thing I have learned is that it doesn't matter if you can write really fast or write a lot in a day. If you write consistently, which is me, you will be able to get multiple books out in a year for your readers. So it's just, and sometimes that, like, I mean, I know there are people that one book a year, that is their thing, and that's awesome. I mean, we really need to like celebrate that every author writes at a different pace, and that's okay, and not press authors into trying to like write more or faster or whatever. But
especially when it comes to series, I've noticed that a lot of people get pushy with, well, you haven't written the last book in a series or something.
There's positive encouragement. Like, I've got some readers that are so great, I can't wait for the next book. And then there's kind of a negative side to it. You can see people who will be like, where's that book? Why haven't you written that? I remember one of my favorite authors in the fantasy genre, and I'm not going to give any names, but she stopped writing after her dad passed. And I saw a post from a reader who was basically like, you just got to get over it and you need to get these books done because we're waiting for this next book. That kind of pressure actually undermined, and that author hasn't written a new book in like 5 years. So you can really, you have to learn to like protect yourself as an author, but also maybe as readers, because I'm a reader and I know that I want to put positive vibes out there towards the authors that I love and not negative, because the negative isn't going to bring anything good back to me. Right.
Right. Exactly. Except more negative.
Yeah. Right. So it's how we look at life, but that's kind of how I perceive life myself anyway. But yeah, so I was always grateful. I never had readers that ever responded to me like, because I went through I got burnout. I had health issues. My mom passed, and I went through like 3 years of no new books. Okay. And I didn't have a single one of my readers come to me and be like, you just need to get back on they were just they were so kind to me. And I'm grateful to every one of them. It's one of the reasons that, as much as Facebook drives me absolutely bonkers sometimes, I stay on it because I've got a really big following on there. And those readers are just precious to me. They're just very precious. Yeah.
And I have to point out Shay, my friend Shay, who's in the comments.
Hi, Shay.
Is a cozy mystery and soon to be thriller author, I hope.
How exciting. Shay, we should talk because I'm writing cozy mysteries and mystery suspense. So like this could be a fun confab.
Just saying. Fantastic.
Oh, Shay, I agree with you. I totally agree with you. I'm so grateful that readers were so kind to me. And it was really hard to see people responding that way to someone that I just thought was a great author and And
you can't put a timeline on when things happen.
No, grief, you got to let yourself feel grief, and you have to give permission to the people in your life to get through grief the way that they get through grief, because we all deal with it very differently. And we grieve different things. It's not just the loss of a loved one. Sometimes it's just loss. Like I definitely have gone through grief of like loss of different aspects of my career when I was going through, that not inability to write and having to pull back and not be able to write for all the publishers I was writing for. And I had supportive people that no one said, hey, you just got to get over this. But that's just choices we make too. That's we need to choose. And yes, Shay, I'm totally down for that.
Yes, she is one of my favorite people and one of the most supportive people I know.
I love it. I love it.
And she's got another comment here.
Oh yeah, it's just true. Rushing grief is It's so unfair. And we've been through so much as a world in the last
Exactly. The past 2.5 years.
Yeah. There is so much grief and so much. It's like, I am a positive person, but I will never tell you that you need to just get over it and be happy, because sometimes, like, first of all, the human body wasn't created to be happy 100% of the time. That's just
Exactly.
not scientifically okay. It's just not the way. We have a whole breadth of emotion for a reason. And that reason is mental health. And so, like, when you're feeling one emotion, you need to let yourself feel it, not necessarily wallow in it, but feel it.
You need
and
to
get
go through it.
Right. And if
Mhm.
somebody needs to wallow, I'm going to let them wallow. I'm just going to be
Yeah.
honest. I'm not going to tell somebody don't wallow when you're like, go ahead, because I'll look, and if they're a close person to me, I'll love them and be there next to them and sit and hold them, whatever it takes. I think that's what we do with our books. I think when we write, we are reaching out with our hearts to the hearts of the people who read our books.
Yeah.
And, we're giving them, I've gotten so many letters from readers who say, you helped me get through the grief of the loss of a parent or the loss of a child or through an illness. Every one of those letters I hold so deeply in my heart, because that's why I write, to connect to the heart of a reader. Oh, hi, Carrie. She's one of my besties.
I have a question about Carrie and you in here.
Sure. Cool. Looking forward to it.
I have, okay, since you mainly write presents, correct? I wanted to make sure.
I did, yes, mainly write presents. I mean, not really. If you look at my 80 plus books, 40 were for presents and 40 were for single title.
Okay. So
and then minus whatever. Yeah.
What made you go to presents, or like what authors inspired you to go to presents?
Okay, so I started writing presents, one, because I loved Lynn Graham. I fell in love with her books. I read so many of them. I also had other fave presents authors, Emma Darcy, Jacqueline Baird, Michelle Reed. I mean, a lot of these really powerhouse presents authors, they just impacted me. And I think I learned short category romance structure from them. Like, it was by osmosis. I read so many of their books. I have a library downstairs and I have hundreds in my keeper shelves, which are the ones that I reread, not the ones I just read and then I'm done. Right. So, I say that those authors were very influential in me writing presents and wanting to write a present story. And I will say that I entered a contest with my first chapter of The Greek Tycoon's Ultimatum, and Lori Foster was a judge. And she read it and she gave me wonderful feedback, so that when I actually sent the proposal, because I met Kim Young at a conference, and she said she wanted to see it after I pitched the book to her. And when I sent that proposal, of course, I sold the book and it went really well. And I truly believe that Lori's comments on how to like tighten up the structure of the story and focus in on that central love story, that it really helped. It made such a difference. And she was also instrumental in me selling my first single title, because she sent the published copy of The Greek Tycoon's Ultimatum to her editor, Kate Duffy at Kensington, and Kate read it, and then she emailed me and said she loved it so much, and if I ever had, she's going to read all my other books. And I said, well, what about unpublished manuscripts? And she was like, oh yeah. So I sent her the real deal and sold that book to her. So yeah, I think mentorship, I've been really blessed by some really great mentorship and help along the way, like by Lori Foster and oh, gosh, I'm having a brain freeze right now. And like the names are just coming up. Debbie Maycumber and Teresa Scott. And I just have had a lot of authors who've really helped me along the way. So since I published, I've tried really hard to help other authors and to mentor as well. I'm sorry, am I giving too long of answers to these?
No, not at all. I might message you and pick your brain on some things as well.
Okay, yes, I'm totally down for it.
And then Shay made another comment under here.
Oh yeah, definitely. When we write, we are reaching hearts. And it, like I said, it doesn't matter if we're writing mystery or we're writing romance or writing any other genre. That connection, story connection, is how we process the real world. It's not just an escape from the real world. It's how we process what happens in our real world, the real world.
And we don't realize it until after.
No, right. Absolutely. Yeah. So it's fantastic. Sorry, go ahead.
No, please. I love hearing your story, so please feel free. um, the Presents heroes are a special breed of male.
Right?
um, how do you add your personal touches to not make them just the stereotype of the prince that gets his way or anything like that?
You
How
mean
do you?
like the alpha holes, right?
Yes, I wasn't sure if I should use that word or not.
It's okay. It's okay. No, I say that the first thing that I do when I'm writing a presents, or like her Off Limits Prince, which is an indie release, but in a similar style, right? When I and the Blackmailed by the Billionaire was again an indie release, but present style. When I'm writing those types of stories, I try to sow seeds of that alpha hero's redemption, because he's always going to need redemption because he is an alpha and he's going to make mistakes. You sow those seeds of redemption early in the story so that the reader believes it at the end. So he's done things from the very beginning that shows his honor and his strength of character and his love for the heroine, even if he doesn't acknowledge it or admit it. And so by the end of the book, you believe it when he's now acknowledging and admitting these feelings out loud. Yeah. And I think if you don't do that, that's where you have the end of the book and you as a reader are just mad because you're like, she doesn't need to be with him. You know?
I've read a couple books like that.
Right? Yeah. And so, you know, like that's just, I think it's important. And if you read authors like Abby Green and Pippa Roscoe and a lot of the other Megan, I know, right? She's wonderful. You know, Jada Sola James, she's one of the new Presents authors, and she writes a fantastic, tight story. And the thing is, when you read them, you see them doing that. You see at the beginning of the story these little tiny things. At first, you don't notice them, but see, they go into your subconscious. And when you're done with the book, you believe that happy ending because it started in the beginning, even when he was being an absolute jerk. Maybe there was still that moment where you believe there could be something more. Carrie says she loves a good grovel too, and she's right. A good grovel makes up for a lot in a book. A good grovel. But you know what? I have realized you don't believe the good grovel if you still don't believe that he has that goodness in him. Because, you know, that's the other side. And this is going to be the abusers, right, are really good at groveling, but not changing.
Yes.
But our heroes show that they can change and grovel. So they show this, they show the growth. If you don't have growth from the beginning of the book to the end of the book, it's going to feel so flat to the reader. It's not going to feel right. And it's not going to feel right to you. I mean, you're the first reader, right? When you write a story, I'm my first reader. And if I don't like the story, why would I give it to someone else?
Yeah, exactly. And if you haven't written it well enough to convey the story that you want to write, it's not going to make sense to someone who's reading it.
Right. So it's like, it's important. And that said, we have to accept that not every book is going to be loved by every reader.
Exactly.
We bring our past, our thoughts, our lenses to the table when we read a book. You may read a book and love it, and I'll read it and be like, ugh. And it's not because the book is bad. It's because I read it with my lens, and my lens did not leave that story in a good light.
Or with some things, it can be like, because of my experiences, I don't like a certain trope or something.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
You know, but that's each and every person. They come to a book with different experiences.
You know, it's really funny. A super popular trope is the fake dating and fake relationship. And I will only read those when they're written by authors that I love, because it's one of my least favorite tropes ever. But it's super popular. You know, like so many readers love it. I honestly can't tell you why I don't. I just don't. Maybe it's the whole deception thing, and I'm not keen on deception. But
I'm that way with like enemies to lovers. Everybody loves it, and I'm just like, no.
I actually really love lovers.
No.
I love enemies to lovers, but again, at the very beginning, there has to be a reason why that makes sense. Why you would believe that those enemies could turn into lovers. Like, what's driving them apart really isn't about who they are at the core of themselves. I think that's the problem. If the enemies to lovers story is about the core person, and those two core people are enemies, how do you believe that they become lovers?
Exactly.
right?
You can believe they hate each other, but how do you get from point A to point C?
You got to believe that for somehow those two people actually really fit together. And she said she loves that verbiage. I'm not sure which one, but all right. I'm always happy. Oh yeah, the miscommunication trope. I get that.
That's my biggest one. Is
Yeah.
I'm just like, talk like adults, please. Have a conversation and it'll all be fixed.
Here's the thing. One of the things that I write a lot is they talk, but they don't believe each other.
That's what I loved about his Queen by Appointment. It was like, the communication was fantastic. And that's going to be in my review. The communication was fantastic. They both disagreed on stuff, but they heard each other out, which you don't see a lot in romance.
That's real life, right? And we can have not necessarily miscommunication, but we can still have misunderstanding even when we talk. And I think that's key. Yeah. Also showing that they stop and listen and figure out the misunderstanding. Like my favorite thing is if there is a misunderstanding in the book, that the person who misunderstood figures it out before it's spelled out to them. I love that.
Yeah.
When they stop and think, oh, maybe I should give them the benefit of the doubt. That moment for me is like golden. I just love to read about that.
Yeah, I that's my biggest thing with like communication tropes is like, it's not that hard. In real life, it's not that hard to have a conversation. It's not that hard.
And it's important that we show it isn't. That it's that. And you see that in a lot of these authors I've mentioned, you'll see reading their books that the communication is there. There may be the moment of misunderstanding is overcome as soon as they are on one another's orbits, so they can talk. Exactly. As soon as that talking can happen. And there's authors that don't do that, and that's totally fine because it's the way it's really hard to find books that show positive. I agree. I love writing what is important to me. Things I want to see in the world, I want to put in my stories because I think there's a tremendous amount of power in words and storytelling. So when we write a story, we influence the people who read it. And I hope that we influence them in a positive way. So that's what I try to do. I love that. I love what you said, Shay, there. That's really awesome.
And I think you have a new fan because Shay is agreeing with you. I love Shay.
Oh, yes, Carrie, you do. Carrie writes really good adult books. Like, I don't mean adult like sexy times. I mean two adults who talk together and act like adults.
That don't act like 15-year-olds.
I will be awesome. Honest. But yeah, you gotta she does talk to her characters too. I love that.
I am curious, going off of one of Aaron's questions. He read the second book in the series. He read, I want to get the title correct.
That's all right.
His Majesty's Hidden Heir.
Yes.
I think that's the before reading Queen by Appointment. And he wants to know, because I read Queen by Appointment first, and Constantine seems like the king of the alpha hole.
Right.
And how did you make him like lovable for his?
He had to be redeemed, right?
Yeah.
And so when you read His Majesty's Hidden Heir, you see what's driving Constantine. He never wanted to sign the contract. He lost a woman he loved because of the contract and duty.
Okay.
And so it made him a jerk. But he acknowledges that he was a jerk. And you see from the beginning this growth and this thing that he's gone through. And he's as much a victim of another person's scheming as she is of his reaction to it. Also, he spends a lot of time groveling in that book, and I think that works for a lot of readers. It's pretty much a big book of grovel.
There has to be I'm not against a grovel scene, but there has to be the equal amount of grovel to what the hero did.
Yes.
Sometimes there isn't enough grovel for what the hero did.
Yeah, absolutely. So you need to see, like, that was when I wrote After the Billionaire's Wedding Vows. That book is pretty much all grovel because the story starts where he's just been he has not used his common sense or his brain. He's really messed his marriage up. And when she tells him, no, you're not just not a good husband, you're a terrible husband. But I stayed married to you because we have kids, and and then there's this whole book, this story of showing him growing and learning what he needs to do to make their marriage work in a way that makes her happy and him happy too. And she also learns what she needs to do in order to be happy in the marriage she's in. And so, like, you know, for me, that was a super personal book. It was a really important book to write. And I was really glad because readers responded to it very positively, which was great.
Because when Aaron told me that he was book 2, I was like, but how? Because just going off of what I read, I'm like,
yeah. No, right. A lot of readers responded that way. And they were like, how are you going to redeem him? How are you going to make him a hero? And I'm like, well, read the book. And if you don't like him, I'm sorry, but I really tried. And I haven't had any reader come back and say that it didn't work for them. That doesn't mean that there's no reader out there that didn't work for, because
right.
like I said, no book is going to make every reader happy. But I was really happy to find out that most of my readers that are like, you know, ongoing readers, that I
don't know how, like, looking at all of your books, I don't know how I haven't read you till now. I'm like, how have I missed
hundreds of authors?
Yeah. How have I missed authors?
I mean, I haven't read all the authors either. People ask me, do you know so-and-so? And I'm like, no. And it's not because they're not a great writer. It's because I've never heard of them. And because,
right.
And I mean, I read a ton, but no.
Me too. Well, Erin's been singing your praises. So I'm like, I finally have to check her out. And I read 2 books in 2 days.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's really great to hear. And I'm so excited about the book coming out this week. Sorry.
Now, is it connected to Blackmailed by the Billionaire, or is it?
No, it's a standalone. And I think what happened was I wrote the book for the 3rd book in the trilogy for Harlequin Presents, for the Princess by Royal Decree. But my editor and I just couldn't agree on, she basically wanted me to gut 75% of the book. And I was like, no. So she's really great. And I was really happy for me to just keep rights on that book. And then I wrote a new book for the final thing. And then this book, I tweaked it, you know, to make it so it wasn't part of that royal family. But yes, like the outline is all the same, you know, but the characters are different and how they respond is different. And the story covers a much different time of life for them. It starts in a way different place and it goes over a different thing. And that's kind of how that became an indie release. And it's kind of how I decided to go indie with my category romance, because the next book I wrote for them, the same thing happened. So I had written the last 6 books I wrote for Harlequin, 3 of them they loved and 3 they wanted gutted.
Oh,
and
no.
The 3rd one they wanted gutted, I realized that there just wasn't a meeting. I wasn't matching, you know, creatively with them anymore. And I don't fault them, and I hope they don't fault me. It's just change, right?
Yeah.
And it's just,
everybody changes,
right? And so we went ahead and canceled that final contract. And the last book that's coming out is a book that I loved and I believed in so much, and I wasn't willing to give up certain aspects of it. I think part of it is that I do write a more vulnerable hero now, and I write a hero who has atypical alpha flaws. And
I might use that line. I like that line.
Right? And I do that on purpose, because that's the kind of story I like to read as well as to write. So it's but it doesn't always fit within like that box, you know, that you know, that and that's okay. It's okay to like move on and grow and do something different. And so I chose to move my passionate category romances to an indie publishing schedule, because it just works for me.
Now, are you all indie now, or are you still publishing?
I'm not publishing with Presents right now. I mean, the door is open for me to go back if I want to. I have no negative, you know, like thoughts towards Presents. It's just where I'm at right now. So any category romance I write right now, I probably will indie publish. However, I have written a single title / kind of women's fiction story written in the 1920s in Egypt. And that's with a couple of publishers right now. And I'm waiting to hear back from them.
Can I read that right now? That's like my catnip. Can I read that right now?
Oh, you know, it's always good to have your beta readers. Seriously, I'm totally down for that. And then I'm working on mysteries. So my goal is to be hybrid is a weird word in publishing right now. Hybrid used to mean you did some indie publishing and some traditional publishing.
Right.
And now there's these publishers out there that call themselves hybrid publishers that are actually vanity presses that
Really?
charge authors to publish, and they do all of the work, they say, but they don't really. I'm sorry. If you guys are looking at hybrid publishing, that really isn't worth the money. And there's so much better ways of doing it indie publish. Just saying, if that's the road you want to take, don't pay somebody a couple $1,000s to put your book out for you. Okay, that's just my little
your PSA.
Yeah, that's my PSA for today. But so a hybrid author is someone who writes for both traditional and does indie. And that's kind of my goal, is to have indie books out and continue with the romance, and also find a publisher for both the single title and the mysteries. And so then, over time, I would just kind of build that career up.
I'm a cozy mystery lover. So
me too. I love cozy mystery.
I love them.
I never wanted to write them, but my books plots often come from dreams, and I'm dreaming all mystery plots now. So I think that that's kind of my creative conscious telling me this is where you need to be writing. That doesn't mean I'm not writing any more romance, y'all. I'm still writing romance.
Please don't stop writing romance, because
but I'm just saying that, like, yes, I definitely want to have like a hybrid career too, as far as mystery and romance. And the thing is, I got this whole cozy mystery series, like, plotted out and ideaed out. And right now I'm working on what I call a mystery suspense. It's a kind of cozy because I don't do violence on the page. That's kind of not my thing. But it still has more suspense than straight up cozy. And that's what I'm working on right now. And then when I'm done with that book, I'm hoping to write the first book in the cozy mystery series. And then the next book after Masquerade in Egypt, I want to write Masquerade in England, which is a connected story with some of the other characters, still set in the 1920s. It's really fun. I love the whole, that there's a little mystery in it. There's a lot of hot romance in it, and there's a woman's journey, and that will, the protagonist's journey will be the main story, right? That's the main story, but it definitely has a happy ending. It definitely has that little mystery element that I just hope readers like it. I had so much fun writing it. I had so much fun writing that book.
Actually, that kind of feeds into one of my questions. Because you write so much, how do you keep all the plots straight in your head? Because you write very widely. So
I think it's really hard. I can't remember everything. I have notes on every book I write. I keep notes on names and plot ideas and story and stuff, like, on the books, because sometimes I have to refer back to them. I sometimes have to go to my own website and read the cover copy to remember what a book was about. And I'll be honest, like, I wish I could pretend, I have this steel trap brain and I remember everything. I do not. I
was kind of wondering, because all your heroes have like very exotic names, and I'm like, I can't even remember it, and I'm reading the book right now.
Oh my goodness. Names, I keep a list of all my characters, because names are super important to me. The names all have a meaning, or they have a reason why they're the name that they are. And but I keep a list of character names, because 80 plus books, you don't want to and I go to that list and make sure I'm not duplicating a name. You don't want to know.
That was actually one of my questions, because you've written so much. How do you avoid duplicating accidentally? I
don't know. I'll tell you what, I think someone said that they think that one of the scenes in Her Off Limits Prince and The Cost of Their Royal Fling, that it's like almost identical. And I'm like, seriously? Because I wrote one from scratch and I wrote the other one beforehand. And even though the one I wrote beforehand came out after, it was written first. And
so
I'm
like, that's coming out,
I can figure out what thing they're talking about, because I have no idea what they mean. But I think it's hard to keep track of every little thing. And I think that that we do have a tendency, like, my favorite authors oftentimes write with similar things. Like, I will read a scene that's very similar to another scene, and it doesn't bother me. So I think, for a reader, if it bothers them, I totally get it. That's you. For me, it's not a big deal as a reader. And so, but it is hard to keep things straight, which is why, like I said, I have notes on everything. it's not that I don't remember my books at all, because I do. And I care a lot about the characters. And I've written codas and gone back and, and I reread my own books so that I can remember. But I wait 3 years after a book is published to reread it.
Okay, interesting.
So that
why 3 years?
Because I need enough distance not to want to edit it.
Okay, that makes sense.
And so it takes that much time, I have found, for me to be okay with if there's an error or if there's a typo, or even if it's like a story. Although I reread recently the third book in my scandalous Regency Scandals trilogy. And when I was rereading the third book, I realized I want to rewrite the whole last third of the book because I'm just not happy with how that all goes down. And I'm putting into KU next year or the end of this year. And I really am hoping to rewrite the end of the book before I put it in KU, because I don't, so I think that there are times when you hit a book and you're like, it's worth rewriting if you're going to do something like go into KU when it hasn't been in KU. It's not really worth redoing a story that isn't going to get a lot of traction later, and you're not going to pick up a lot of new readers.
Right.
And also, like, I've had authors rewrite stories that I absolutely loved, and the rewrite of it was so like not what I loved. And it's because they changed, and so how they saw the story changed. And I don't criticize that at all. I totally get that. But as an author, I don't want to do that either. So like this one, I finally just decided, nope, I really need her to stand up more for herself at the end of this book. So that's what we're going to do. So,
I have a hard time sometimes reading books because I have like a copy editing and journalistic background. That's what I went to school for. So like I catch myself while I'm reading, like in my head correcting it.
Oh gosh.
And it drives me crazy sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. Because you know what? No matter how well you've had a book copy edited, it is still going to have errors.
Yeah.
I wrote a book years ago for Harlequin. And back when I wrote this book, they don't do this. I don't know if they do this anymore, but back then they had several people read it, like read the ARC in-house for errors. You had your copy editor, you had your substantive editor, right? Your editor who gives you the substantive and structural changes for the book. And you have your copy editor, and then you have basically just people in-house that read the ARCs to make sure that the book didn't have errors, right? That book got through, and I had reread this, I don't know how many times. And I had Prague and Russia in that book. Yeah. Yeah. And it got past everybody. And for me, that's a big one. It got past me. It got past everybody. And that is like my example of no matter how many times you go through copy edits, no matter errors can happen. And once it's in print, like with Harlequin, there's no fixing. Like with my indie book, I can go in and like finesse a scene or do something post-production. I mean, this week I can't do anything because once it's up on Amazon, it's like no changes for the next week or whatever. But later I can go in and like finesse a scene or something and kind of fix if things come back a little weird. But in regular publishing and traditional publishing, no, that is not an option. And I remember getting so many reader letters on that book. And then I made an error in another book that was only released as an ebook. And I got readers were like, oh, and even in the ebook, I wasn't allowed to make the changes to go in to fix it because once
I would think in the ebook you would be able to. I could see in the print book not being able to.
The thing is, you can't just make the change. See, if I do it as an indie, that's fine. But if Harlequin, I make the change, it has to go to another copy editor. It has to go through the substantive editor has to approve the changes and make sure it makes sense to them. And so that time, like you have to think the publisher has to pay for that time, and they don't have the time. They have so many authors that they're like in charge of. Editors are overworked.
Oh yeah.
You will never hear me say any differently. They are so overworked. And so I get it. It's like there's no way to do that easily. It's not like in indie publishing where I'm the final person. Yes, I'm the final responsibility, but I'm also the final person who gets to say, yes, I can make the changes or no, I can't.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, it's very different and sometimes good and sometimes not great. I mean, there's things about traditional publishing I absolutely adore, and there's things about indie publishing I adore. And unfortunately, neither one of them has everything. There's always going to be negatives, and
there's always going to be cons to everything.
Yeah, right. And you learn to deal, right? Because that's our job.
I know we kind of touched on this a little bit, but I was curious because you write in presents and then your indie books. Mm-hmm. Do you prefer to read different tropes than you write?
That's an interesting. I've never been asked that before. I would not. No. I read what I love. I write what I love to read.
Okay.
And do I read outside of my genre? Absolutely. Do I read tropes that I don't write? For sure, I read tropes that I don't write, because as a writer, as a creator, there's something in your soul kind of that's drawn to writing a certain story. For instance, Carrie is one of my favorite authors, Carrie Nichols. She writes for Special Edition. She writes a very heartwarming story. I love her stories. I don't write like that. I write a much more passionate, kind of edgy style of story. And yet I love to read hers, and they make me smile every time. So yeah, I definitely read outside of what I love to write, but not because on purpose. It's just like, yeah, I like a lot of books and I can't write all of them.
I just always like to ask because I know some people hate certain tropes and love other ones.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like I said, there's some tropes I'll never write because I will only read them if they're written by someone I love.
Right.
So,
yeah.
But yeah, I although never say never, because what'll happen is I'll be like, tomorrow morning I'll wake up with this fake dating story in my head. I can't get it out of it. And I'm like, oh, really? That's because of that interview yesterday, isn't it? So.
So, because you mentioned that there's differences and pros and cons to traditionally publishing versus indie publishing. What was like a harder road for you to do? Was it indie publishing because there's more, you're involved more, or was it traditionally publishing?
Well, with traditional publishing, I wrote for 9 years and submitted a lot before I sold my first book to Harlequin Presents. So I'd say the road to publication for traditional publishing was much harder.
Okay.
And it was much more challenging. I mean, publishing for indie publishing, getting the book out there, having to do all of the fiddly stuff, having to get your own editor, your own copy editor, having to find a good cover designer, having to, I will not say promotion's any different, because I did probably very similar amounts of promotion for all of my traditionally published books. It's a real mistaken belief that if you're anything but a top author, that your publisher is doing a lot that is doing the promotion for you personally. They're not. Harlequin promotes their lines, but not necessarily their individual authors. You'll see individual stories promoted, but it's like 1 out of 8 if your line gets promoted that month. And I'm not criticizing Harlequin, I'm just saying that's like how it works. So if you want to promote your book, you've got to do that yourself. And I have done that since my very first book was published back in 2003. But
you've written 83 books from 2003 till now.
Yes. But not really. I wrote 12 books before I published my 13th novel, and all 12 of those books subsequently published. So 12 of those 80-some novels were written in those 9 years previous and then sold to publishers later. So that was kind of like, I was lucky because a lot of authors don't get to see those pre-production books go into publication. For me, there was just a combination of factors. I had an agent who was basically kind of bottlenecking my books on her desk. And then when I finally sold to Presents, I got a new agent, and she was like, hey, let's submit. And she did. And then they all sold. So that was really awesome.
That's fantastic.
It was like a fairy tale. But indie publishing can be really challenging. I'm not saying it's not. It's a lot of work. I don't have as much time to write because I have to spend a lot more time on the business of writing
and social media promoting and
yeah. But the other side of that is I have a lot of freedom and there's no box that I have to fit inside. And I know I can write stories that my readers want to read. And I don't have to like wait and see if the publisher agrees with me or if marketing agrees with me. Marketing has so much more to do with what editorial is seeking and allowing now in traditional publishing. And that's not a bad or a good thing. It's just a thing. It's just reality. And so does that mean I may sell fewer books? I don't know. I'll tell you honestly, if you look at my KU Reads and you divide like, how many books sold and how many readers are reading them, Blackmailed into Marriage has been read by probably as many people as read my last Harlequin Presents. So, I think, and since my target is to touch readers' hearts, it's to connect to as many readers as possible. That's an okay thing for me. That's a good thing. And and I'm really happy about that. Not all of my indie published titles have sold that well. So like it just, it just depends on what.
Is there any books that you haven't published that you want to, like that you have like an old manuscript or something that you want to publish?
Nope, because like I said, I did all 12 after. So there are no manuscripts sitting under the bed. I mean, I wrote an inspirational nonfiction book way back in the day. That was the first book I ever wrote. And it's never published, but my perspective on religion and my personal faith has evolved. And a lot of the stuff I wrote in that book, I would not want to publish now because I don't agree with the way that I saw the world when I was.
We grow and change.
Yeah, we do. And I'm not saying that someone else who has those beliefs is like, it's all good. It's just not where I'm at. So certainly, I have no desire to go out and try to hit that market. But that doesn't mean I'll never write an inspirational book, just probably not one that's religious based.
And those are the ones that I'm more, I gravitate to more because no problem with people that are religious, but I'm not religious myself. So those are the ones that
it's like I'm a very spiritual person and I do I identify as Christian, but probably not as most Christians that like it's not the way I see the world is it's very broad and I'm very open to other people and to how they express their lives. And that's good for me. I don't expect other people to be me, but don't expect me to be you. Like that's the way. Thanks, Miss WOC Reader.
My friend Vina. Vina, she's great.
I love it. Vina, welcome.
Love her. Since Carrie, Miss Nichols is in the chat.
Oh yeah.
I do want the backstory of your friendship. That's one of Aaron's questions that he had, the backstory of your friendship.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so Carrie tells it like she's like, well, I read a Lucy Monroe book and I don't remember how. She joined. We met online. Like I think she was in my book nook. We chatted. I just think she's amazing, right? And we just like connected. And I read her books when she was, and I was like, I love your stories. And she's laughing at me. I know I am not a great storyteller about this one. You should be here to tell this story. But yeah, it's like, I just feel so blessed. She's amazing and she's a really good friend. And we've just grown really close and we chat online all the time. And sometimes we'll like do private chats and not just our Zoom chats with the other authors, just so we get our chat time in. We met at an RWA conference, she said, back in 2014. Thank you, because like I'm not good with this. I'm not good with this. And
having you both here, we can get the full story.
Right. And it's just like, but we have a lot of fun together. We just really, she came out here in order to do a research trip with me to the beach last year. Okay. And because she's going to set a new series there. And I'm really excited about that. And that's where I'm setting my cozy mystery series. Or not.
Yeah, I love cozy mysteries at the beach.
Right. It's like, and so, yeah, but we had a lot of fun and we really connect and we will throw ideas back and forth with each other. We talk and we support each other. Like right now we check in with each other daily to see how we're doing because we're both kind of on a deadline to get some things done. And I don't know, I feel really blessed. It's one of those.
My friend Bree.
I'm like, yes, I totally get that.
I'm with you 100% on that one.
Yeah, I get that. Oh.
Yeah. Because I haven't I have a couple of Carrie's books. I haven't read them yet. I'm still new to category.
Sure.
But I saw your interactions online, and I was like, can I just be part of this friend group?
Aww.
It's just the cutest.
She is super sweet, and you are welcome anytime. Join the Book Nook and chat with us on there.
Is it on Facebook or?
Yeah, it's on Facebook. You can find, it's called Lucy's, I think it's Lucy Monroe's Book Nook. You
Okay.
can find it like connected to my Lucy Monroe page.
Okay.
And yeah, and we chat. I mean, I chat more than like, I don't know. It's funny. Like sometimes there's lots of chat and sometimes there's no chat. It's just really,
it's feast or famine.
Yeah. Yes, we are accountability partners. We totally keep each other going. It works.
You have to.
Yeah. You need friends. Like years and years ago, I had a friend tell me that, you have a rainbow of friends, right? And each person in your life fills a color. And no one person can fill every color. And if you put pressure on someone to fill every color, it's too much. And it's like what I was saying with my husband, how like he could be supportive, but my friends could understand where I'm at as a writer. Like they get it. So he's one color in my rainbow, they're another color in my rainbow. And I love that about friendship. Friendship's so important. It is really,
I love that description. I've never heard it, but I love it.
Yeah, it's stuck with me. I mean, I think that was over 30 years ago we talked about that.
I'm working on Bree to get her to more cozies.
I love cozies, and I'm going to start writing the next cozy. I'm hoping to get it written. I'm probably going to the mystery suspense I'm going to finish this year, and then the cozy will be written in the beginning of next year.
That's how I started.
I don't know when a publisher will pick it up or whatever. Yeah. This is the thing. There's nothing fast in publishing. Well, I say that. I mean, but you know what? You hear about the fast things because they're so anomalous.
And you hear about the college student that has like a great book and they're in the number one spot. Those are the stories you hear, which is fantastic. It's great. Like
it is, but you hear about it because it's so uncommon. This is why these stories resonate so highly and get passed around and go viral because, yay! I love mystery suspense.
This is my core group over here.
I love it. It's awesome. See, that's the thing is we have our core group, and it's really important to have those people around us that we just enjoy and are there to chat with us and make us.
That's actually how I started with Harlequin, was reading the mystery suspense. And then I found everything else.
Yeah. With intrigue or Harlequin suspense?
Intrigue. And then I moved to Harlequin suspense.
Got it. Yeah, they're a little bit different, right? Because one has more romance than the other. And Adrienne Lee, she now writes single titles, but she used to write for Intrigue. And oh my gosh, her books were so good. If you find those in a used bookstore somewhere by Adrienne Lee,
I'll grab them.
They're so good. She still is a great author. But yeah, those were some of my favorites in that line. That's right. We keep each other sane, and y'all keep each other sane, and I like that. You
guys are gonna make me cry.
Support is a good thing. Support is a good thing.
Thank you. So, since we've talked so much about your past books and your new book with indie publishing, what's the next step for you? So, you have this book coming out next week.
Mm-hmm. Actually, tomorrow. It's out tomorrow.
Is it tomorrow? I had the wrong date written down on my book.
No worries. No worries. It's out tomorrow.
Yay! So after that, what's next for you?
So the next release after that will be Highlander's Moon. That comes out. It's another book in my Children of the Moon series, which is a paranormal romance historical series. And that will be out in September. And then in November is when I'm bringing out Cinderella's Jilted Billionaire, which is another passionate category romance. And then into the new year, I'm not really sure, because like I said, I'm waiting to hear from the publishers on Masquerade in Egypt. And, I'll get the mystery out, and then do I look for an agent, or do I, what do I do with that? So there's a lot of stuff up in the air. But that quote, one of my favorite quotes is, when nothing is certain, anything is possible.
I like that.
Isn't that awesome?
Isn't
that a great quote?
I need that above my door. That's like a sign above my door.
Yeah. And so that's kind of like where I'm sitting, is that I know certain things are going to happen, and I will have, my plan, and it's a hope. I will hope to write one more category, passionate category romance this year, at the end of the year, to bring out next year for my romance readers who love them. And because I just want to give back. It's important to me to keep.
I'll send it to you, Brie. She wants your book. That's coming out tomorrow. I'll send it to you, Brie.
It's on Amazon and it's on KU. So, hey.
Yes.
If you're a subscriber, you can just pick that right up and just download it. So there you go.
And she's just like me with the Egypt. So
we both got really excited. I'm just waiting on the publishers to see what they say. Excited. So and I'm hoping, because the two publishers it's with are with two editors I would really love to work with again. And that's all I'll say about that. But it would be really nice.
But if you need beta readers for anything, you sold me with 2 books.
I love that.
You had me for life. You sold me with 2 books.
Oh, it is beautiful and scary. It is. Uncertainty is beautiful and scary. Yeah. And potential. It's like life can be just amazing if we're open to the possibilities and open to taking a chance sometimes when things look scary. And yes, KU, I have lots of books, and I have so many books I'm bringing out over the time. I have put, I think already this year, I put 5 or 6 books into KU for my backlist. And before the end of the year, I'll probably put another, at least 3, maybe 4 books into KU. So I got lots of free books.
The rights reverted back to you then?
What's that?
The rights on those books that you're putting in KU were reverted back to you?
Yes, and I originally just brought them out as, print and ebook. And then this last year, since I've shifted over to this indie publishing model for my category romance, I decided to put them all into KU so I could kind of build that readership. And hopefully it's working.
Yeah. You've got 4 new readers in the. I've been since Erin's been screaming at me to read you, and I've been telling everybody else.
I love it. You guys are wonderful. Thank you. Yes. Yes, Brie, you really, really do. I do believe that. What is the point if you're not pursuing things that give you joy? Sometimes it's not always in your career that you're pursuing joy, right? Sometimes joy is found in family or in the lifestyle that you choose to live. So then you have a career that makes that lifestyle possible. I've been really blessed because my career has been my passion and my family has been my passion, and they have meshed. So I am grateful, y'all, really grateful for the life I have.
Well, since we're coming up on an hour, I don't want to keep you too long, but I love talking to you, and I could probably talk to you for hours.
Aw, widow.
But I wanted to thank Erin again for trusting me with this channel.
And thank you, Erin, for letting me come onto your channel.
Everybody's popping on as we're. Oh, there we go.
Oh, I love it.
I have a couple announcements for Erin's channel. Just hold on one second. Sure. I'm still learning how to do this. So we're doing, for Erin's book club, we're doing The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. I think that's the last Monday of the month. So that's on the 27th. And an interview with Danny Collins that Erin will be doing on the 29th of August. And then this is the one that pertains to you, Lucy. The book club I'm a part of will be reading your book on the 31st.
Yay! Thank you. I'm so excited.
I can freely send you the link if you feel comfortable as well. Like you don't have to be on it.
I definitely want to be here to watch you all. That sounds fantastic.
Yeah. Thank you again. Thank you for dealing with my never doing this by myself jitters.
No, this is great. You've been wonderful.
Thank you so much, everybody. Hopefully I did good by Erin because I was really nervous.
I think you did a great job.
Thank you. Well, everybody have a great night. Thank you very much.
Bye.